the house was shaking and it was like whoo, whoosh, and then that makes the whole city tremble. So those are the mountains where the Suet comes from, but right now it's nothing. Day in the life of a visionary daddy. Last night we experienced our first Suet Wind, and like literally the house was shaking. We had to go sleep in the basement because it was making so much noise, and my wife was scared, my baby was scared, and we went in the basement. And you know what? The Suet Wind last night, we heard it was just a baby Suet. So let me show you from the other side. So we'll just go like across on the island, and then I'll show you where the wind comes from the mountain and how it gets over Shady Camp. But first, let me tell you where the word Suet comes from, because I had my trusty assistant help me do the research this morning. So ChatGPT, thank you very much. And so Suet comes from the Acadian, the French word sud-west, but in the Acadian language, which is like still French, but it's very different from the Quebec language that I know, the Quebec French or the France French. And so Suet would be like sud-west in the Acadian language. So that's how the word comes from, because the wind comes from the southeast and goes across the mountains. And then because of the pocket of hot air and cold air, because of the lakes, the ocean, well, then you get those crazy gusts of wind. And I'll tell you more about it on the other side, because I learned a lot from the locals yesterday that were telling me it's about to happen. Like, we just feel it, and you'll see how they feel it. And because we're halfway to the island, well, I just decided to stop here because this is part of the story, and this is the first time that we learned about the crazy winds here in Shady Camp. Is when we were going from Quebec and moving as a nomad family with our baby. And we had stuff on the roof, like I'll show you the pictures. Like we packed everything we had, and we were guided, because at first we were thinking we were heading to BC in British Columbia on the west coast, but instead we were guided to the east coast. And I'll tell you why in another video I'll make someday. And so when we stopped here to put gas, because we heard that was the last gas station, because we were heading to the very tip of the continent of the island. And the lady here, I'll always remember, she said, she spoke to me in Acadian. It was the first time I heard the Acadian language, which is French, but not my French, from Quebec. And I didn't understand at first. And then I caught on and like, oh, that's French. And she told me, like, here in the winter, the wind is like 120, 150 kilometers per hour most of the time. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And now somehow as nomads, well, we stayed all the summer at the tip of the island. Then we ended up in Calgary for 2 months in Alberta, and then we came back here, like close to where we were staying in the summer. And now somehow in the middle of a snowstorm, after all the days we moved here, because we were led here for some reason that I'll explain another time, and now we've seen those winds, and when the snowstorm when we came, it was so windy, the waves were crashing on the rocks, and just in our backyard, and the wind was carrying the water in the windows. It was splashing in the windows, and I was like, oh my god, the wind is crazy, and I had to hold the door of the car, like hold it or it would smash open, and then like, oh my god, the baby had quite the experience. Right, baby? You remember? Oh, she's falling, she's playing. And but now it took like a month before we saw the real wind. Like everybody told us that was a breeze, that was like 45 kilometer per hour wind. But then yesterday, I'm at a library with the baby, we're printing like it's like flyers presentation that we're doing for the Broadway musical play that we're writing and creating, and then I'm just like stapling them, and baby's playing on the ground with the toys, and then we hear a voice that we know, a friend, a new friend that's helping us, helping the young families around here. And I hear a voice, and then she comes, and then she says, tonight you're gonna see the Suet, the wind, the very known wind here. And so that was, and then I said, how do you know? And then he's like, did you hear that on the news? And she's like, no, my grandfather taught me when I was a kid that it would come. She said, like, I said, how? She said, well, like everything calms down. It's like the calm before the storm. There's no wind. And then everything looks calm. I'm like, oh, imagine if you have a barbecue in your backyard and the wind comes. And she's like, yeah. And then you hear from the mountains, you hear like whoosh, whoosh, like the wind is preparing to arrive. And then you see like from the chimneys of the houses, the smoke is going to start like going horizontal towards the ocean. And then you know like the wind is coming and you got to prepare. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And this is what happened last night. Like it was calm until like midnight. It's like no wind, nothing. And then like at 2:30 a.m. like I woke up, my baby woke up, my wife woke up, and like the house was shaking and it was like whoo. And then it came like by gusts of wind. It's crazy. I'll go tell you. I'll go show you from the island. You'll see it from the mountains. Oh, and I forgot to tell you just before we leave, like what's so cool is that the people here and that lady that I had met that had spoken to me about the winds this summer, well, they became good friends and they've really helped us with the car lately. And they were our first like official sponsor for the play that we're writing. Other businesses put their hand like, we'll do it, but then they were first to actually do it. So we're really grateful for them. So that's where we plan to do the musical in 2 summers, if everything goes right. So next to the church. And so that's Shady Camp on the other side. We live like just by the water down there, so it's so nice. And now we're on the island where a week or 2 ago, my baby and I got arrested as we came out of the forest going snowshoeing. So I wrote a blog post about that, but we'll make a vlog video about it real soon, so stay tuned for that. And okay, so you see the mountains in the back, so Cape Breton Island, especially on this corner of the island, like it's amazing. You got the Cape Trail that goes all around the island, and it's like a lot of tourists come here in the summer. Summer is packed. Winter is very not packed. But here in Shady Camp, it's quite a large city. There are like 3,000 people living here, so there's some life. But where we were before, we came here like before holidays. We didn't get the best day to travel as a nomad couple, so we packed the car yesterday. And I still got some more to put in. It's early morning and we want to leave because there's a huge snowstorm coming, and to travel through the islands it might just be they close the road if there's too much snow, so we want to be there before that happens. It was a city, I think there was like, I don't know, maybe 80 people like in the winter or something like that. Quite small. So the wind comes from the southeast, so from over there and then up over the mountain, and then because of the pockets of cold air, hot air in the islands up there, and then down near the lakes, and then it's warmer, and then so as the wind comes down the mountains towards the ocean, then it goes like super fast. It slides down the mountain and it's like whoosh, and then that makes the whole city tremble. And that's like, so that's the Suet winds, and that's what scared my family so much last night. I was quite excited. I was like, oh my God, God is so powerful. And but we still went to the basement. It was much calmer late in the night, but then I couldn't sleep after that. I was thinking about this video that we're making today, like, oh, how can I make a great video about this? Sleepless night, you know. So that is the story. And it's so cool because now we're at the mountains, like at the corner, like at the islands, where the islands are, which really look like Scotland. And I'll show you some clips of me driving. That's like the ocean or the big Gulf of St. Lawrence. It's just gorgeous. And now we're at the mountains on the East Coast. And a couple years ago, I was bicycling through the forest and like a little cycling path, a straight line, and there's a big raven that flew in front of me for like 5 minutes. And it's just in my heart, I heard like, you gotta head towards the mountains, because I had just seen pictures of missing and murdered Indigenous women driving through a First Nation village in Quebec, Kitsganzibi, which I would later learn what it means through going to another native village in North Ontario called Kitsgan-ZB, which is Garden River First Nation. So that was cool that I learned that, even if it was the Anishinaabe language, the Ojibwe, compared to the Algonquin language, I'm guessing, and but there's lots of similarities. They come from the same ancestral line, and I learned through that journey that I have my great grandmother was Algonquin from Lake Témiscamingue in Quebec, so I've come from that line as well. So when I heard you go towards the mountains, and I unfortunately didn't have I had the $18 in my bank account, and I just okay, I have my old mountain bike with me, like very old and very twin suspension, very not made for long distances. And I'm going towards BC, towards the west coast, and I'm going towards the Rockies. And so I left 2 days after, just on a hunch like that. And I'm writing a book about it right now. Actually, I recorded the first couple chapters of the book while driving to the islands the other day with my baby to move some stuff. And I had my microphone, the earphone and microphone that I use for phone calls and all. But the microphone, I realized a week later, didn't work anymore. And the whole 48 minutes of recording for the first couple chapters is nothing. So I'll have to start writing again. But this, a lot of people had told me on my journey like this, because they were reading my blog. It was very interesting. Every day, so much happened, and I had entire faith in God, the universe, and in the Creator to guide me through this journey. And it was amazing. I saw how people were so generous and welcoming, and ended up living with the native communities for 2 years in the north, and becoming firekeeper, and really practicing ceremonies. And it's been quite the journey, and it led to the greatest love story ever told that gave us this surprise that I love so much. So stay tuned for that video, and then somehow through that journey, trying to get to the west coast, to the Rockies there, I get to the mountain on the east coast. And this is where, while we were looking for land on the west coast to do a eco resort project that we created, instead the internet showed us a property here, and that's why we came this summer. And you'll see more about it in future videos. So, and you'll hear more about, if you want to hear about the story of the greatest love story ever told, I talked about it in my last video that I uploaded. And I record videos every day, and but sometimes it takes weeks to put them together to make a whole story. For example, how we're creating a Broadway musical from scratch without knowing what I'm doing. So I mentioned in the last video that's actually uploaded. I'll put you can watch it here, and at the end of the video I tell the greatest love story, and it's how I met my wife, how we came to have a baby, how we had friends in common, and how this whole journey that I took led to that. So yeah, and now we're here, and we survived the Suet Wind last night, and they're baby Suet Winds. I hear. So last night was it was around 100 kilometers per hour. Through my trusty AI assistant ChatGPT, told me it goes up to 200 kilometers per hour, twice the strong wind. And yesterday the house was shaking. My wife thought it was an earthquake. I'm no, it's the Suet Winds. But she didn't like it, so we ended up in the basement. Suet comes from the other side. Now the wind is coming from the ocean. Mountains. And the Suet comes from the mountains towards the ocean. It's much faster than this. This is nothing. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, here on the island in the summer, there's a bridge with holes. Because people bring their cows, a bunch of cows in the summer, and the summer is filled. The island is filled with cows. Every time I come for the waves, they die down. Every time I take the camera out, it's the camera shine like you, baby. Oh my god, he's just been massively getting bigger. Just move the car away because it's gonna get like swamped by a wave right there.